Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is The Press. And of course, we've gotten to the part where we get to invite our guest analyst on the program this morning. Welcome with me, Dr. Mefor, a media consultant. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you for hosting me.
Yes, thank you. And now for the biggest story screaming for attention on every newspaper this morning. Tinubu to tribunal, petitions by Atiku, PDP not competent. And I think this is probably one of the first times it's actually coming out to address such issues spot on. What's your general take on this?
Well, I didn't expect any less from Tinubu. He would try to defend his victory.
Okay.
And I read through cover to cover Atiku's petition to the tribunal. 223 pages. You know, a lot to take away. I'm not to comment on the merit of his petition.
Okay.
But I think Tinubu's statement should be taken as a political statement. And he should really pray that Atiku and Obi don't have facts to substantiate their claims, because the claims they made in their petitions, so in Labour and PDP,
yes,
are really weighty. They are not issues you can just wish away.
Okay.
Many of them would leave the tribunal and the Supreme Court with no option where it comes to the point of law and where it comes to statistics. Let me just single out one, without prejudice to the matter before the judiciary.
Okay.
I think one of his statements said that it's a point of law. The Electoral Act 2022, that where the value of council votes, right, is greater than the margin of win. That what the law requires is that you do a rerun in those areas to give Nigerians in those council areas the opportunity to determine who should be.
Okay.
So that is a matter of statistics. Even if Atiku is able to show statistically that is the truth,
okay,
it's a point of law. The judges will have no right to override a clear law.
And it's not just Atiku is even facing, because for Vanguard here we have I defeated you, Tinubu tells Obi. So it feels like
it's still the same thing.
Okay.
It's still the same thing. And like I said, I read both petitions, and I also read Tinubu's response. The Tinubu's response, it's what one would say is expected. He has to put up some defense. For example, one thing will be brought into the mix, that is a bit novel, is the issue of narcotic dealings in the U.S. The forfeiture of
I like the fact that you brought that into this. Do you think, because some persons have come out to say that's not even relative, we're talking about the presidential election here, so how is the $460,000 US narcotic forfeiture, how is it related to politics, or is it still political?
No, you see, we are talking about the qualification of one who should be the president.
Okay.
The issue of character is what is being called into question here.
Okay.
The clear constitutional provision says that one who has been convicted, one who has been indicted,
yes.
The issue of dishonesty. Do you understand that? The only issue here is, Tinubu's response clearly admitted that, yes, there was forfeiture, but he tried to present it not to mean or amount to dishonesty.
No, he said, let me quote him, he said, so far I didn't get to the Nigerian legal system.
That's the issue here, but I read that, I read the constitutional provision. The Constitution says, by a court, He didn't specify whether it should be a Nigerian court. So it becomes a problem. So, it's for the Supreme Court to really determine whether the forfeiture, which of course clearly underlines the issue of what we may call illicit dealings. Okay. It borders on dishonesty, no doubt. But I believe that it may not be so serious if you check the age, because this happened over 10 years ago, and again that it didn't happen in Nigeria. And like I said, it's neither here nor there. Our constitution is very bogus, nebulous in so many considerations. When you say, a court, you need to say Nigerian court. That leaves that open. If the constitution had said Nigerian court, there wouldn't have been any justification for Obi to bring that into the mix. Okay. But it says court. A court is a court, wherever it is. So these are issues. But for me, I think that the real issues in these tribunal or presidential election petitions before the tribunal and ultimately will be resolved at the Supreme Court, it should be the issue of statistics, figures. Figures. I believe that there are cancellations that will be inevitable where election results are mutilated. Okay. Certainly the electoral act says once there is such a mutilation, you set aside. So when you do set aside those mutilated figures where alterations, falsifications clearly took place, okay, then you are bound to recalculate the totals. And by the time you do so, the first may not remain the first. Okay. Do you understand that? Yes. And if Tinubu remains the first, then there will be no need to proceed to runoff or cancellation. Okay. I also would be surprised if the Supreme Court will, outrightly cancel the entire presidential election. Because I believe that, a majority of the states of the country, there was peaceful election. But areas where there were clear breaches, where problems occurred, I think the law would compel the Supreme Court to order something be done in those areas. The reason is this. You see, you can't disenfranchise Nigerians. Do you understand that? So where Nigerians were disenfranchised, where you have a ballot box burning, snatching, and general violence that disrupted the process. Okay. If the number of people, that were supposed to vote there, when calculated across the country, would be higher than the margin of win. What I mean by margin of win is the margin with which Tinubu is leading Atiku. If it is more than that, the law requires that you have to do a rerun in those areas. Then there is also a very strong possibility of runoff. If you put into account the two conditions for the production of Nigeria president. Mm-hmm. One is that you score 25% in 24 states. Yes. Now, if after all these cancellations and the recalculations that Tinubu is not able to cross the 24 state threshold, then a runoff becomes inevitable between him and whoever is the second. Of course, and I like the fact that you mentioned whoever came the second. So where does Mr. Peter Obi fit into in all of this? Peter Obi tells you, if you look at this, he says that the results he has point to the fact that he really won. Okay. That's the issue here. He said he fulfilled the two conditions. That is scoring 25% in 24 states and leading with a simple majority. That's his claim. Okay. But I believe that nobody will really tell who is ahead of who until the recomputations are done. Because of course, like I said, there are cancelled votes. Yes. And more polling units where results have been declared are also likely to be cancelled. I don't know to what extent. But the number of votes in those cancelled areas will alter the equation completely. You know, that can force Tinubu down from number 1 to even number 3. So it depends. You know, so we are facing a dicey situation. The only thing I know that is certain, according to our law, is that Tinubu will be sworn in, you know, on May 29. The reason is because the law permits the tribunal 180 days to do its work. And up till now, I'm not sure they have expended up to 40 days. So they still have a balance of well over 120 days. What that means is that since the terminal date for this incumbent Buhari administration is May 29, he has to give way. And it means that the president-elect will have to be sworn in as a substantive president.
And now
that is just 1 minute.
Okay.
There is just one condition that can stop that.
Okay.
If there is a court order stopping it.
Okay.
If there is a court order, you know, stopping the swearing in of Tinubu, then that becomes a problem. And if that happens, it's an unlikely event, but it's not impossible. On
what grounds will the court order come in at this point?
You know, you see, a court order can come in if a petitioner is able to convince a court or the judge that there will be serious infraction if an action is allowed to proceed. Do you understand that? Yeah. If, for example, you are able to convince, you know, the judge that swearing in Tinubu would amount to, do you understand that, travesty of justice.
Okay.
You have to convince him on the point of law, not sentiments.
Not sentiments.
No, sentiments will not work because the issues are too high. You know, so the stakes are high. So you will not really get a frivolous order under this circumstance. No judge would want to be involved in such a mix.
Okay, I like the fact that you mentioned that, because taking us back now to, I think, 2 weeks ago, the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party said swearing in Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the All Progressive Congress and of course the president-elect would be against democracy. Is that coming?
I don't think it's right. You know, in 1999, Obasanjo's election as president, you know, as president-elect, was challenged by Olufalaye. Obasanjo was sworn in before the Supreme Court disposed of the matter. In 2003, the same thing. 2007, the election of Yaradua was challenged by Buhari. But Yaradua was sworn in before the case was disposed of. And it has always been like that. It's only in 2015 that the president-elect was sworn in without any challenge, because Jonathan, who lost that election, decided not to go to tribunal. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So, but now that both Obi and Atiku have decided to go to test the validity of Tinubu's victory at the tribunal and ultimately heading to the Supreme Court, you cannot stop Tinubu from being sworn in. You know, Nigerians need to understand this. There is no, people have called for interim government. There is no contemplation of interim government in our constitution. Go and check the constitution. The only condition, I've told you about the court order. Even when that court order comes, if it comes down, the National Assembly will have to respond to it as a kind of emergency and declare a state of emergency. What that will mean is not the setting up of an interim government. What would happen is that the incumbent president, Muhammadu Buhari's tenure, will be elongated by an initial 6 months to enable the issues to be resolved. That is what is confronting us. You know, so when a Dati said Tinubu should not be sworn in, that would be undemocratic, it has always been undemocratic. That has always been the process since 1999.
Yes.
And again, you know, it is not undemocratic also. I don't think that Dati was right to that extent. I say so because, you know, the tribunal or the judicial process involved in resolving electoral or election disputations is part of the electoral process. it's not predicated on anything strange. He has always been part of our electoral process. What that means is that the presidential election in Nigeria does not end until the Supreme Court has spoken. And before the Supreme Court will speak on this matter, it will be upward of another 7 to 8 months. Yes, because like I told you, the tribunal has 180 days. That's half a year. Do you understand that?
Yes,
that's half a year.
All right, Dr. Law, please hold your thoughts while we quickly take this call. Good morning. Good morning. Please step away from your TV set.
Yeah, good morning, madam.
Yes, please, your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Yeah, I'm calling from Delta State.
All right, please join in on the conversation.
My name is Thank. So, what I want to comment that the elderly man speaking, he has spoken very well, enlightening us, Nigerians, how the rules of law happens in Nigeria. So, I want to comment, like what they have said it all. Because the kind of country we are, this is not the first time we have conducted election for president in this country. We have been conducting election. And normally, the normal right is that it has every right to go to court. But not by using all those kind of words that they should go on and appoint interim government or whatsoever. Democracy has to continue. Tinubu has to be sworn in. Like what he said, according to the court. If he goes to the court and seek a court order, normally there will be another extension for Buhari to continue to rule. Tinubu himself, the president-elect, will still go to court to counter that order.
Yes. So
this is Nigeria. We are in Africa, in a country that we are learning how to follow the foreign people on how to move on in life. The democracy cannot stop in Nigeria. We have to move on because we remember the backward military have taken us. No one in this country that want to go on that line again. Everybody should be patient. All of them that contested as a president, you have more 4 years. Because the way Nigeria is going now, both the one yet unborn, the children yet unborn in the mother's tummy, every one of them now, everybody is angry. If Tinubu did not do well, what for 4 years? You contest again and see if you win the election. Because every Nigeria now, with the kind of system of democracy that Buhari has given us, to make sure that they put another new law in the electoral system. I somehow believe that Nigeria now is changing. So my plea to Obi and the rest of them, Atiku himself know that he cannot become a president because he have destroyed this country. He has looted a lot of money. So he has no right to say he wants to come back to power. You are a vice president for how many years? So another new party can come up and take over, not PDP again and APC. If APC did not do well, they have this 4 years opportunity. Nigeria will shoot them away. So that is my comment. May God continue to strengthen every one of you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Thank God. You read the caller. It's quite hilarious that he said we have the next 4 years. Yeah. But the thing is, Nigeria is actually willing to jeopardize another 4 years because this is the case of you don't know what is going to happen in the case of the APC again.
Yeah, well, you see, this is democracy.
Yeah.
And the caller said Atiku doesn't have the right to, but over 6 million Nigerians voted for him. Do you understand that?
Yes.
So you discover that his voice there may be a minority position. He is entitled to his opinion, but the fact is that this is democracy. You understand what I'm saying? I would want the law, due process followed. Okay. The law says swear in the president-elect. That is where I stand. Okay. And like I said, only the court can stop it now. If there is an order of court, it can Tinubu will not be sworn in. But you see, it cannot be a frivolous order because no judge would want to be part of the truncation of the nation's journey through democracy. So whatever would make a judge to grant such an order, it has to be really serious. And it must border on a constitutional violations. Where you have to establish this, you must convince the judge. Do you understand that?
Yes.
When you do so, the judge, a high court, federal or state, is still a court of first instance. That order will be challenged you can be sure of this. The order will be challenged in Court of Appeal. If it is sustained there, do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
It can still be further challenged in the Supreme Court. If it is sustained there also, then the swearing in cannot take place. So you can see that it's quite a tedious process.
One, yes.
It's not something that will just happen because a single judge said so, because there are options. I really, the chances of Tinubu being sworn in by May 29th, you say almost 100%.
Yes.
But like I said, it is not impossible that even the 1% chance cannot happen.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, I like the fact that you mentioned issue of court order and in different cases of what might happen.
Yeah.
And now let's take us back to Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Of course, telling the court that Bola Tinubu was indicted and he had to forfeit $460,000 US.
Yeah.
And then that was part of the case he put onto the court. And now, speaking of character, like you mentioned, we have UK apologizes to Peter Obi for wrongful detention. That's on the Vanguard newspaper this morning. And we are now aware of British government's apology on Heathrow incident. That's coming from Labour Party.
Yeah.
And of course, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president-elect, made timeless Tinubu. He was among the 100 most influential people as of this morning.
Yeah.
What is your general say on this?
Well, I read it, and first, you need to understand what the time, does in its listings, right?
Yes.
When they list you, it doesn't really mean that you are the most honorable person. Influence can be positive or negative. And
yes.
Time has often listed all manner of people, including Hitler. Do you understand that? So, Time has listed all manner of people, Benito Mussolini, and people who we know have really brought so much negative energy to bear on mankind.
Yeah.
So his listing there should not be seen as a positive affirmation. I'm also not saying that it's a negative affirmation. No. Because they have often listed, but come to think of it, is Tinubu not an enigma? Do you understand that? He is. For him to really come this far, even if he's removed by the tribunal, he has entered the records as Nigeria's former president.
Former president, yes.
Do you understand that? That is not a mean achievement. So Time is looking at Tinubu from that perspective, that he has come a long way. He has really come a long way in shaping Nigeria's politics. I read the citation they gave, to nominate Tinubu. They wrote something about him. And they talked about his journey dating to up to two decades,
yes.
From a governorship of Lagos to the center, helping the APC to get to power and order, and now he's saying that it is my turn. And he proved it. That is not a mean feat. And I am not a fan of Tinubu. I have to be honest with you. I'm not his fan, but I have a lot of respect for him. The guy is an enigma. Do you understand that? No matter what happens in the tribunal and in the Supreme Court, even if Tinubu leaves, even if he leaves in the next 8 months, Tinubu is a former president of Nigeria. And you can't deny him that. You give him all the,
accolades.
Not just accolades. Every rights and privileges that go with that office. So for me, it's an attainment that is deserving. For him to be mentioned by Time is something quite, for me, deserving, because he has proved to be one recurring decimal in Nigeria's politics in the last 30 years. Whether we like it or not, right from the days of Atiku and so on and so forth, he is an enigma. And if you come to think of it, Obasanjo and Buhari never made the list, the time list. So if they didn't make the time list and Tinubu did, there is something about Tinubu that the world cannot ignore.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, all right. Now to UK apologizing for Peter Obi's detention. Okay, now let's speak about Mr. Peter Obi himself. He has come out over the last week that there's been pressure on him to go into exile, and now for UK detaining him. What do you think? How do you think this is going to affect his court case based on character generally?
No. You see, his detention, the reason, it has been given, and his identity was faked. Right now, what I expect the UK government to do is to really launch an investigation into that and establish that double, the person that is using Obi's identity. And for what purpose? Because once that happens, the person can commit a crime. Ike Gurumad is in the UK prison. Do you understand that? As we speak, awaiting sentencing. You don't allow such. So for me, Obi ought to really petition the UK government. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
To launch an investigation into this impersonation. If it does not, his double, that person that is now duplicating him, can commit anything. And UK laws are so rigid. If they pounce on him, he may suffer the same fate as Ike Kurumadu. That is what is far more important. I don't think it has any negative consequence for him, and his case, because there is no criminal infraction. It's been established that he is being aped by somebody. Somebody is not just aping him, duplicating his identity and using that for some ends that are yet to be determined.
Right, Dr.
Whatever it is, it must be investigated and halted now.
Right. Please hold yourself. Good morning. Please stay away. Good morning. Please step away from your TV set or you reduce the volume.
Okay, I have reduced the volume of my TV.
All right, thank you very much. Your name and where you're calling from, please.
I'm calling from Jos, and Ezekiel Bull is local.
Okay, all right. Please join in on the conversation in 60 seconds.
Yes, I'm happy with the gentleman speaking there because it's good for someone to come on national TV and say the truth of what is happening.
Okay, sir.
But eventually, if you look at the situation in Nigeria about this 2023 election, you see everybody coming out to vote because we were told that everything is going to be transparent. But eventually, if you look at this, the Nigerian syndrome that we used to talk about, still, issues arising from what INEC did. And that makes us to feel as if we are not going to go anywhere. Look, we cannot bring God into things when we don't want to follow God. If we don't want God to help us, that is how we continue to suffer. You tell me that what happened in Nigeria this 2023 election, somebody will tell me that what happened was the real election and that things were free and clear. Nothing was free and clear with the action of INEC and other people in the INEC office. Votes from polling stations were not sent to INEC as it is supposed to be done, and people are saying that yes, elections were done. Look, let me tell you, if you look at the election, you will know that Nigerians came out to want to change the system. If you want to elect a president, you look at somebody and his capability. We cannot continue to be doing things as usual. Those who have rocked us in this country, that is what we continue to see them coming in. If this election is allowed that Tinubu should be our head of state, I'm telling you, Nigeria as a country is doomed. Whether you like it or not, I'm not a politician. But I know people by what they live. I am in my 60s. And at the age of 60, if I can live and I will say, I have not seen what social person and social person has done all his life, then I'm a finished man. The gentleman there, you can see what he's saying. He can accurately and say things as they are. But when you call people of other people, you see what they continue to say. I think it is something that we are supporting this tribe, we are supporting this religion, so on and so forth. That will not take us anywhere. With this election is allowed that way, it means anybody who wants to become a head of state should use whatever power he has to depress people from voting and use every method to come in. Then we declare the president, that is allowed to go like that. I am telling you, God will not be on our side. Nigeria is a God nation. It's a godly nation. That is what I know. But what we are doing, most of us, as the decided to follow Satan. Okay. And that is what is happening in Nigeria. May God help us.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
I get where he is coming from.
Yeah.
You know, certainly the 2023 presidential election was mad. Seriously, I'm not happy with it. And but here we are. It happened in 2007. Voting was still going on in states when Professor Morrissey, who was announcing Yar'Adua as the president-elect. It happened in Nigeria. So, we didn't do anything. And that is why Professor Mahmoud Yakubu can repeat the same in 2023. If he were in jail, do you think he would do that? You know, so we allowed that to go on. So if this one is also swept under the carpet, the history will repeat itself. That's the problem and bane of Nigeria. The bane of Nigeria is that there are no consequences for even treasonable felonies being committed against Nigerian people. Do you understand that?
Yes.
That's why I gave the example of Maurice Iwu. He announced to Yar'Adua as the president-elect. And he later gave reasons that that was the instruction he was given. Do you understand that? What do you think Mahmoud will say tomorrow? Maybe he too got the same instruction to return Tinubu, because there is no other reason to explain what he did. The build-up to the 2023 presidential election was so perfect. Enabling laws, enabling environment, matching grants, matching funds. Everything was in place. 105 billion was, sank into setting up the IREV, viewing portal.
Yes.
These things were all in place. And once the uploading of results, presidential results, commenced, you shut down the process. So something, and you claim that you shut it down that because you didn't. I didn't even say they shut it down. I said that they suffered internet glitches. Do you understand that?
Yes.
That means there was internet interference, which of course was a very dumb excuse, because the results of Senate and House of Reps were dropping.
Yes.
They were dropping. Save that of the presidential election. Results from the same polling units where Senate was uploaded, House of Reps uploaded, but the president's result could not be uploaded. Something happened. And do you know what happened? Lai Mohammed, the Minister of Information, told us in the US that INEC deliberately shut down the portal because they feared that there would be hacking. That is a more believable thing to say. So I believe Lai Mohammed.
Okay.
INEC deliberately shut down the portal. So the whole thing was mad. You see, if they had allowed the portal, the portal to do its work, because I keep talking about Section 60, Section 64, 68, of the Electoral Act 2022, particularly Section 64, subsection 4. It says that the returning and collating officer shall collect announced result subject to, when we say subject to, say subject to confirmation and verification of the figures, uploaded from the polling unit, the result uploaded from the polling unit. It is very clear. That means before you collect, there has to be uploading from the polling units. But do you know that as we speak, even today, more than 10,000 presidential results have not been uploaded. And meanwhile, you have a president-elect.
Yes.
So it's all deliberate to what a beautiful process. If a mood was man enough, even if it was directed by the president, he should have asked somebody like Humphrey Wosu how he did his job. He should have asked somebody like Professor Emawa how he did his job. They were all former INEC chairmen. These men damned the consequences and did their job. Humphrey Wosu was almost killed, but he insisted on going through a free and fair election that produced MK Abiola. One of the finest moments of Nigeria. Mahmoud was on that threshold of history, but he bungled it and descended into infamy. Now people are writing off a beautiful election as the worst in Nigerian history. He ought to be worried. Even more worried should be the president, that has promised that he was going to bequeath Nigerians the freest, fairest election, this has gone up in flames. They evaporated before our eyes. And you say they are more concerned about returning a particular person. That's what this whole thing is all about.
I like
and it does not mean that Tinubu couldn't have emerged. Tinubu still could have emerged. But I believe that their fear that Tinubu may not emerge or that somebody else could emerge, somebody they don't want. Probably Peter Obi. Maybe they are afraid and wouldn't want Peter Obi to, you see, the black man is just not it.
But would you know why I say this? Fear, actually.
There is fear. There is, how else? You shut down a portal, you spent 105 billion.
But Tinubu did not even win in Lagos State to start with.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Obasanjo didn't win even in his polling unit in 1999.
The same as President Buhari.
That's what I'm saying. So it could happen. It's not history that Tinubu couldn't win in Lagos. It's not. There's no big deal about it.
Okay.
Do you understand that? Because a president can be chosen by people who are not from his ethnic group. Obasanjo has never been popular amongst the Yorubas, so they never voted for him. Especially in 1999. But Nigerians chose him. And he became the president. So, Tinubu losing in Lagos, it's not a big deal. It's not. It's not a big deal. Like I always said, Peter Obi is the person that has actually taken something out of this election. Because he was able to lead in 12 states. The incumbent APC led in 12 states.
12 states, yes.
The main opposition PDP led in 12 states, 12. Do you know what that means? For a man, an underdog coming from nowhere, given no chance, I didn't even believe that Peter Obi would go that far. Because I have always said before the presidential election that Peter Obi is an excellent presidential candidate, but standing on a very flimsy political platform, too weak to erect a presidential victory. He proved all of us wrong by going that far. So whatever it is, whether he wins in the tribunal or he doesn't win, he's already a winner. Do you understand what I'm saying? And for my brother that said that Tinubu shouldn't take, look, let me tell you, it is the opposition that gave Tinubu victory. Labour was a faction of the PDP. G5 governors, a faction of the PDP. So the opposition was broken into three. So what do you expect? If you add even NMPP, Kwankwaso is a product of the PDP. If you add the votes of Atiku plus Obi plus Kwankwaso, that is 13 million. So if the opposition worked together, maybe the PDP was able to repeat the Atiku Obi ticket. It would have been an easy victory.
That's the same thing.
It would have been an easy victory. But they did not. Wike wanted to become president at all costs. That's it. And truncated the whole process. Forcing the PDP to throw its presidential ticket open. Once they threw it open, despite the warning of Atiku, that look, if you throw it open, I will contest. And that was what happened. They threw it open, Atiku contested and took the ticket. When Atiku took the ticket, Wike left with his faction. People even left before the presidential primaries of the PDP. So they were, if Tinubu succeeds in the tribunal, the person to blame is the opposition itself. They gave APC the leeway to emerge. That's the simple truth.
All right, sir. Please hold the thought. Good morning. Thank you for calling the press.
I love your contribution this morning and your presentation. The man you brought in is another state person. I just love the way he's
Thank you very much. Please, your name.
Thanks for your kind
calling from.
My name is Alaba. I'm calling from Sokoto.
All right. Please join in on the conversation.
Dr. Love, may God bless you and bless your children.
Thank you, my brother.
You are one of those people who come on air to say the truth.
Okay.
Let me just make my comments very quickly. You see, I have always want the nation to be at peace.
Okay.
The youth should take it calm. But the problem I'm having here is that with the judiciary, we didn't do the right thing. Nigeria is just what it is. Everybody's angry. Me personally, the election for this year was never an election at all. I'm above 40 years, so I have been following election in Nigeria. This year's election was never an election at all. So anybody who is coming to say the contrary to what I'm saying is a thief and should be jailed. We cannot all be saying wrong thing and say it is right. Bible says, woe unto him who owns black, white. How can Nigeria move in this manner for heaven's sake? The hope of the youth in this country was truncated. Mahmoud Yakub, I'm still saying it, should be imprisoned. He dashed the hope of Nigerians. That man was not, I don't know how he got his professorship. I'm not sure he qualified for that professorship. And those people were these commissioners. Education in Nigeria is scam. That's just the truth, I'm telling you. We never respect education. We don't respect anything. Why are we like this in this country? How can we keep on rotating old men in politics to lead us a nation in 21st century? Okay, let me ask you a question. After the announcement of Tinubu as the president-elect, how many people jubilated? Did you see the reaction of people's faces? Where people ask, these are questions we need to ask ourselves. See, let me tell you the truth. I know God will do something in this nation. But to be sincere, I am not happy with the way election was conducted this year. They just wasted our money. They should call that man called Yakubu or whatever his name is called. They should come and give us a cover and spend the money. These guys are just thieves. They are rogues. See, call me on air. I will say, tell them come and arrest me. That's their work. They don't have to arrest people. They are not afraid of ATC. All of them are thieves. They are rogues. They are excluding no one. They just came to ruin this nation for nothing. And God, nemesis will catch up with them and their children.
All right, thank you for the contribution.
Yeah, I feel his pains.
Pain, yes.
I feel his pains. Like I said, he should blame the opposition. The opposition failed to put their house in order. That was what happened. It's very simple. That's why I said, add Atiku's vote, Obi's vote, Kwankwa's vote, 13 million. Tinubu won by 8.something million.
Something, yes.
Do you understand that? So opposition fought, itself to a standstill, broke up into 3 factions. That people being left PDP was bad enough. Allowing the G5 governors to stay out also was the finisher. Do you understand that? PDP insisted on following the so-called law, leaving an IU that couldn't win even his own ward. As the chairman as the national chairman of the PDP, that was apolitic. That is unstrategic. If you say that if IU goes, the next in line must be the deputy national chairman North, so be it, but let IU give way first. And again, there was nothing impossible in proclaiming a Southern acting chairman of the PDP, which will not be validated in a convention after election. Yeah. If they did that, they would have blackmailed the G5 governors back into the fold to manage the crisis that they were having. I was a deputy director in the Atiku presidential campaign. It's so painful. They were advised on that this is the way to go. But therefore, now IU has left.
Exactly. I was going to say that.
After inflicting maximum damage. Sometimes I wonder, was IU not really a deep voice inside the PDP? Was he really concerned for the PDP victory? These things are left for posterity, but I have my doubts that they actually wanted PDP to win. Why wouldn't you, not even a matter of retrieving or sort of demonstrating honor and commitment, but I believe that it was his reasonable sacrifice to leave that office, and allow the party to win. He didn't leave, and the party, National Working Committee did not prevail on him to also leave. They didn't, because they were also factionalized. Some wanted him to leave, some didn't want him to leave, and he cast him on that division. But he reserved the right to say, look, I want to step aside. That is what honorable men do. And if he did, like I said, the G5 governors would have been blackmailed back into the fold, because Wike wouldn't have any choice anymore.
There wouldn't have been an excuse.
Good, because Peter Obi already had become a movement. He had taken away the Southeast. He won Southeast by almost 90%. He had broken South-South into 2. And you say, if you had allowed free and fair election in Rivers, you'd be surprised that P2B would win it by more than 50%. You know, so you can see that the traditional base of the party was already shaken to its foundation.
Yes.
And nobody was looking in that direction. It was so bad that the PDP could not even hold its presidential campaign in Rivers State.
I like the fact that you've mentioned that. Now let's move away from the presidential and of course the governorship election. Let's move to the supplementary election that is taking place this weekend. And now, after the governorship election, there's been a lot of drama in most of these political parties. Let's start with the Labour Party, where the national chairman was removed, and of course IU2 has been removed. How does this affect the supplementary election taking place tomorrow?
They are receiving a pressure on Abdullahi Adamu
also leave, yes.
You know, so
it begs the question, is election really over? Because apart from the fact that there's a supplementary, it still feels like there's just this impending atmosphere. There's this,
you know, the country's democracy and nationhood,
yes,
you know, are being reset at the moment. You know, whether Tinubu stays or not, things will never be the same again. You know, things must reset. There is no way Nigerians would allow what happened in the 2023 presidential election to be swept under the carpet. They will not. If they do, a third version of it will happen in 2027. You know, I told you, the presidents, 2007, under Professor Morris, he wasn't punished. Because like I said, if it was treated as treason, he would be in jail. But it wasn't. Why? Because he was carrying out an instruction, so the powers that be, you know, for whom he carried out what he did, protected him. The same thing can also be extended to Professor Mahmoud.
And that begs the question, is an independent National Electoral Commission?
It's not independent. No. It's, you know, that word, independent, you see, there is mere decoration. If you want INEC to be independent, you have to go beyond granting them financial autonomy. You need to address the issue of recruitment of the management staff of INEC. Those national commissioners, even state commissioners, and of course the office of the chairman. Go and read Justice Wise report. After Yaradua was elected under such scandalous circumstance, Yaradua was so, even though he benefited from it, he felt so appalled, and they said, look, this can't be. So he set up the Wise report, the Wise committee. Wise committee recommended that the office of the chairman should be torn open. It should be advertised, you know, and the recruitment should be anchored by NJC. Do you understand? But it's not what is happening. It is the president that picks who he wants.
But do you even think if it was advertised, it would still be, this election would have been free and fair at the end of the day?
If you allow NJC, if you allow NJC to pick somebody, you know, maybe 3 names and recommend to the president. President will now in turn recommend one to National Assembly for confirmation. It will be better because the issue of Piper syndrome must have been neutralized. What is happening now is that the president personally went to TED Fund and picked someone, Professor Yakubu, who as at that time was executive secretary. So he's a child of the establishment. Do you understand that? And of course, the president being his appointer, he is bound by human tendencies to look at the president's body language. This is what is playing out. It's not a removed thing. It has always been that tendency. So he discovered that INEC from 1999 has often tried to return the incumbent, federal and the state, the president and the governors, or their proteges. This has been and why is this so? Because of the Piper syndrome. Their allegiance is not to the Constitution of Nigeria. So to them, patriotism is standing with the president. It's not standing with the Constitution or standing with Nigerian people. Even so, they stand with the president even when the president is standing against the country. Do you see the contradiction? So you must remove that responsibility from the president. Someone like a good Lord Jonathan appointed Professor Tahiru Jiga without knowing him. But Tinubu, you know, not Tinubu, Buhari didn't want to follow that route. He appointed who he knew. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
And only Buhari knows what made him to appoint Professor Mahmoud Yakubu.
All right, please hold that thought. Let's quickly take this call. Good morning. Thank you for calling the press.
Good morning.
Your name and where you're calling from, please.
I'm Evangelist Babajide speaking from Lagos.
All right, please join in on the conversation, Evangelist.
Yeah.
We're listening.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Please
sir.
join in
Good
on the
morning, sir.
conversation. Yes, good morning. We can hear
Good
you.
morning.
Morning,
Good
sir.
morning.
I'm Evangelist Babajide speaking from Lagos.
All right, thank you for calling. Please join in on the conversation.
Yeah, I'm talking about the presidency in Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah. My sister and my daddy speaking.
We can
My
hear you.
daddy speaking. You see, Nigeria cannot solve the presidency. You see, the Southeast.
Please, can you step away from your TV set or you reduce the volume?
Okay. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please step away from your TV set or you reduce the volume.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please speak now.
Yeah. You know, the problem we are having now, not that the coup, not that the coup was not conducted properly. But was not conducted properly.
Okay.
But the problem we are having is that the Southeast, they are very anxious to have their president. But the problem is that they do not arrange themselves properly. The Southeast did not arrange themselves politically. If Nigeria elect a Southeasterner as president, Nigeria can never know peace because it appears as if at all they don't even know how to play politics. They are not like our Papa in Nigeria Secret or MI or Ara. They always fight themselves. Look at what happened in the East. Trying to win the whole politics in the East. But when INEC said that they should come for another validation of legislation, myself as a Nigerian, I know what will happen in Lagos. All the Easterners, they came out to come out and register. I know what they will have mass vote. So they only want to become president. But have they prepared themselves to be president of this country? No. I knew right from the beginning that Obi can never win because he doesn't have any structure. Who did Obi know? Who knows Obi? I didn't understand me. So tell them, that talking, he's talking very reasonably. He's an elected person, he's a politician. Tell the Easterner to now organize themselves politically. They to have structure. They to cooperate with other people. I think they are following me. Without that, they can never rule Nigeria. Right? Even they are not fighting for presidency, the Senate presidency. How can they get it before?
All right, thank you for that contribution.
Well, I think he's a bit misguided there.
Okay.
Say, I'm Igbo, Anambra, and yes, we play peculiar politics.
Okay.
We believe in merit, we believe in competence, right? Let me give you an example. When Ojukwu was running for president, Igbos decided to vote for Obasanjo, right? They decided to vote for Obasanjo,
yes,
and later voted for Jonathan, right?
Yes.
That's the way we play politics. And, we are the least tribalistic people in Nigeria where it comes to politics. At least,
okay,
right? And I also think that he is wrong for saying that Obi couldn't win. Obi has already won. He led in 12 states. APC, that is controlling federal government, led in 12 states. PDP, main opposition, led in 12 states. Don't you see that as a measure of victory? Do you understand that? And I think that Obi is not an Igbo project, Obi has, for me, emerged as the music. Because his politics is obeying cosmopolitan, Nigerian nationalistic. Do you understand that? And that is what we are giving. This is what Obi is what the Igbos are giving to Nigerians at the moment.
Okay.
Competence, integrity. Do you understand that? That is what the country needs. And I believe that even if he didn't win, you should allow Nigerians to see how he lost. He lost. Why did you refuse to upload the presidential results? If they uploaded the presidential results real time, and Section 64, subsection 4, insisted that the Electoral Act, if they did that, and Obi lost, we will see. But the way it is now, Obi is telling you that his results from polling units are indicating that he won. He won. And you and I, may never know the truth, because at the end of the day, INEC did not allow us to monitor the results as stakeholders real time, as envisaged in the Electoral Act 2022, Section 64, subsection 4. Go and read it. So for me, his position is not true. It's not right. It's not right. He must play, nationalistic politics. They go for integrity. They go for competence. That is who we are. Okay. That's how we play politics. And like I said, he talked about Zik. He forgot about Alexa Kweme. We gave you Zik. We gave you Kweme. We have given you Obi.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Law.
Thank you. The pleasure is always mine.
Thank you very much for joining us on the press this morning. I'm sure our viewers really had a great time with you on the program with us, and we hope to see you once again on the program.
Thank you.
All right.
Pleasure is always mine.
Yes, sir. All right, our viewers at home, this is where we come to the end of the press this morning. I'm sure you enjoyed this particular interview. And of course, I remain Mercy Babajide. Do well to stay safe. And of course, see you on the press next week. Bye.